Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Retro Warriors episode 316. Woo. As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by resident old bastard, Chris Saturn.
You know, 316 sounds familiar.
It sounds real familiar because we do have some housekeeping, and it's that we did this episode already. Well, you and Guy did it, and my recording machine messed up.
In fairness, you also did it. You just don't have any evidence that you did it.
Right. No, yeah, I was here.
Yeah.
It happened. We did this episode. It was large. It was a long episode. And,
it wasn't as long as I expected it to be, but it was a long episode.
Yeah, but it was a longer one, and so that it makes it
even more
all
painful.
harder. So we recorded this 12 hours ago.
Yeah.
Less than.
No, it was almost 24 hours ago.
Oh wow.
12 hours ago would have been in the morning.
Oh yeah, I guess because it's the evening right now.
Yes.
Numbers. I know how they work. So if this seems weird, or this episode ends up short, or we just skim over things that we shouldn't be skimming over. Yeah, or we just keep screaming, I don't want to do it again, oh my God! Then that's what's going on.
Or
really my concern
if one
is,
or both of us makes a really bad joke and hams it up and the other doesn't react at all, it's because we heard that joke last night.
Yeah, we have learned, because we've been recording together for many years now.
That's true.
And what we've learned is that because we used to have to redo shows a lot.
Yeah. Or at least large segments of shows.
Yes. And when we would do those, we've learned that we would tell the same jokes.
Often, yes.
And laugh at the same jokes. Not like because we were like, oh, I need to tell that joke again, but because we're so predictable that our natural reactions are always the same to the same things.
Yeah.
So, So really, my only real major concern is if we like skim over something, then that because we're like, oh yeah, like we mentioned before, and we didn't mention it before. It's because we think we did because we did it yesterday.
Well, we did, just none of you heard it.
Yeah, just trust that we mentioned it to nobody previously.
We mentioned it to Guy.
My week is totally different than it was last night, because I had a nice day today. I played a lot of games.
Because last night you talked about having a stressful day.
Yes. Today was a good day.
That's good.
I have been playing a bunch of the Guitar Hero 2 and Guitar Hero World Tour, which I got from you.
Yes.
And I got the Xbox 360 I played on from Andrew. Right. And it's just been, it has just been a good time. I've been enjoying the heck out of that. I
taking
still
a trip back in time to last decade.
Yep. Yeah, back to 2009 and just living there. It's great. I do like the Guitar Hero. I never did the Rock Band.
It's basically just Guitar Hero with extras.
Yeah, I just never it.
And you don't have to do the extras; you can ignore them.
It became too much, I think is what it was. Is when Rock Band came out, it was like all this extra stuff, and then it was like we got to buy all the songs separate, and well, not all of them, but and I was like, I don't know.
Well, at the same time, Guitar Hero was also selling the songs separate.
True. They both did the same thing.
Time.
So yeah, I should say that I really got out of,
that genre,
band-based rhythm games. Yeah. Whenever they because I don't know what it was. It felt like it was too much. You know, it's like when you have that friend that gets too into something, and you're like, hey, I just wanted this to be this kind of fun, goofy thing, and you're kind of so into it that it's sort of making me want to be less into it. I
understand, because I had gone from DDR into ridiculous things like Samba de Amigo into Guitar Hero. And it felt like a natural evolution to go to Rock Band, but looking at the price tag of it and the size of the box of the store, I was like, maybe I can put this one off for a while. and I didn't end up playing Rock Band until almost at least 6 or 7 years after it came out.
Yeah.
And it's fine. I mean, it's made by the guys that made Guitar Hero, so it's just more of that. For me, what I appreciate about it is it also has the vocal part, which is just a recreation of their own earlier game, Karaoke Revolution, which I love that game. So I'll take more of that.
I've also been trying to mentally replace the Blizzard games I play with non-Blizzard games, which I've been needing to do anyway.
Yeah.
Because Blizzard hasn't really released a solid game in my estimation. I mean, obviously, I know they had success with Overwatch. It was very successful. Right. But they haven't released a good game that I was excited for in a long time. So I'm kind of going down my list, and I should say Activision Blizzard, because I do like the Call of Duty, and so I'm trying to replace that with Counter-Strike Go.
You also had some positive words to say about the Crash and Spyro remakes. And Tony Hawk.
Yeah, I thought they were well done. I still don't like those games, but they were well done. Tony Hawk, I don't know what I'm going to do. I guess I'll just wait for Skatebird or...
Isn't there a new skate game coming out?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't even know who publishes the skate games. Oh, my God. All right, EA, you got it. You're finally the better company. All you had to do was wait long enough. And I was trying to find... I was sitting on my computer this morning, and I was like, I don't have anything to do this morning. I'll just get on my computer, and I open my laptop, and I'm drinking my coffee, and I go to click on Diablo, and I was like, And I decided it was time to put more time into Grim Dawn, which is a fantastic action RPG by a company. I forget their name. I want to say it's like Crate Studios, something like that.
I've not heard of the game.
And man, it is just great. Great game. I remember when I first got it, I played it for like real heavy for a couple days, and then something else happened, and I dropped it, and I was like, I'll come back to it.
Right.
And it has so much more complexity compared to Diablo that every time I've tried to go back to it, I've been like, shit, I got to relearn all this stuff. And when I left the game, I had like 50 side quests all listed down the side of my screen that I hadn't even started, and I was like. And so it was this thing where every time I try to come back, I'd be like, it was like opening up old homework, you know. And I finally kind of stuck through until I sort of relearned it. I cleared out my quest log, and I've started progressing. Just what a stellar game!
Nice.
I know it's going to get compared to Diablo a lot. It does kind of have. I went online. I'm like, good action RPGs 2021 before I realized I already own all of them. And someone was like, yeah, Grim Dawn is really more Titan Quest with like Diablo themes. And I like that because I liked the systems in Titan Quest quite a bit. And so I've been doing that. I've also been playing Mini Motorways. Last night when we recorded, I'd only played a couple minutes of it. But today, I've played a couple hours of it.
Oh, it's so good, isn't it?
And it is infuriating.
What?
I cannot. No, I mean, I'm enjoying it, but I cannot. I'm horrible at this game. I mean, real bad.
Did you see the picture that I posted in the high score chat yesterday?
I saw the one with the
Yeah. I was doing pretty good on that map.
I don't know. I can't. I'm so bad at it. Like, it's instantaneously a horrible mess. I mean, like, immediately traffic jams, and I cannot figure out where to put a traffic light to save my fucking life.
I can't get traffic lights to work well at all. I pretty much just use roundabouts and motorways. That's my
every time I
map.
put a traffic light down, it's just like, well, you fucked this street up,
everybody hates it. Yeah. No, I've also been playing Mini Motorways, so I might as well also talk about it. I have already poured 8 or 9 hours into it at this point, just since it came out earlier this week. What I have learned is, whenever possible, try to make residential areas where all the houses connect to each other.
I've kind of been trying to do that, but then you get this thing where it's like, okay, now here's a green store. Oh, where's the green house?
On the other end of the fucking map.
The exact opposite end of the map. Right. So literally, all I can do, because I don't have enough tiles, all I can do is put one expressway for this one person directly to their one store.
Yeah, I end up using my motorways for exactly that. When I end up with all of that color on the opposite end of the fucking map as that store or factory or whatever, I'll use the motorways for that. Everybody else just gets regular roads and the occasional roundabout. But yeah, I'll just separate to where I have a road that just connects as many of the factories as possible and splits off into residential neighborhoods to where no houses connect directly to that road. They only connect to each other.
Yeah.
And that seems to be working.
Right. My other issue is in Mini Metro, I would get into a map, and when things started getting bad, I would pause the game, delete everything, and rebuild it all from the ground up. That's how I've always played Mini Metro.
Which you can do in this one, too. It's just...
No, you fucking can't.
You can. I've done it.
You can't. You do. Well, here's the thing. I'm not normally wiping my map unless shit is bad. And in this one, it takes a lot longer for your changes to take effect because you have to wait till all the cars are done using whatever they were on.
Yeah, whatever path they had already planned.
And so if you were already in a bad spot, which is the only reason you'd be wiping your map anyway, then it takes a good 30 seconds for everything to fix itself.
And if they're all stuck in a
lose.
traffic jam, you can't do anything at all at that point. I have already gotten myself in the habit to where I will regularly rebuild things. Like if I start to notice that I'm getting some spaghetti going on, I'll pause. I'll just erase as much of it as I think I can afford to, rebuild it in a cleaner way that'll have less intersections, and then just unpause it and hope that it catches back up before it becomes a problem. And that's just keeping an eye on it and regularly updating it seems to help.
My I'm struggling to just not be terrible at it.
That's fair.
We also had a gentleman who sent us. We talked about his I think it was a Kickstarter a while back. He kickstarted a shirt with like a cool video game design that had like Mappy and Donkey Kong and like Hudson characters and stuff on it. And so I ended up on his mailing list, and he sent me a copy of a magazine that he has now made called Read Only Magazine. He sent us a press copy. And I've been reading that, and man, it's just a really, really cool magazine. For people that don't know, there's like this gaming fanzine scene, and so when I see them a lot. I see a lot of my gaming fanzine, and normally when you see that, it's like 10 pages, and you're like, okay, that was okay, like this is like long. It feels like an actual magazine, like it's that fanzine, like little. I don't know what the size is, A4 format, the little small pages. Right. But it's really good. I have been having a good time slowly kind of meandering my way through that. I've always kind of liked fanzines, even though a lot of the time a lot of them are kind of content light. You can tell a lot of it is just that aesthetic that they're trying to get across. Right. This one's not, but I like them because sometimes it's hard to read about video games that isn't just news. Right. And sometimes I just like reading about video games, people talking about video games, people talking about like the rental store they used to go to, people just talking about their experiences with different stuff,
the
and
culture and the ephemera and stuff.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard to find that because it is such a corporate press focused industry. Yeah. That it makes it difficult. It's always like, what's new? What's the new thing? What's on Steam? What's coming out? What's coming out tomorrow?
The awards for games are all press based. It's all about advertisements, and there's no real celebration.
Yeah, there's no good mainstream gaming media way to consume just essays and thoughts on video games. You have to find it. Like you have to track down like people's individual blogs and websites and stuff, and it's difficult to get that stuff. So I do appreciate Read Only Magazine for what it is. I've not made it through the whole thing yet because I just received it. Well, I think he sent it a few days ago, but I didn't check my email for a couple of days.
Yeah, you posted it for us last night, and so I also downloaded it and started on it, but I've not. Yeah, I've also not gotten through it.
And so I just want to say, if you're in the market for just like a gaming fanzine, that's a good one. But there are a lot of other gaming fanzines out there too, for people that might not know that they are a thing. Right. We had a gaming fanzine. You might briefly not know that. RetroWarriors.net. You just click on magazine. We had a magazine. Right. So I didn't, if you want to download that, you can. I actually totally forgot about it until right now. Yeah. Anyway, what have you been doing?
So we already mentioned Mini Motorways.
Mini Motorways.
That's been a lot of my time. But also Yakuza 7, I've gotten further in it since last night even, when the last time we attempted to record this. I believe I'm at the end of chapter 10 now. I just got a character back in my party.
Mm-hmm. The one that you lost.
Yes, a character I had previously lost is back in my party.
Now, I don't want to spoil anything, but I want to know, on a scale from 1 to maximum level useless, how useless was that whole story arc? Because for me, it was a 15.
Yeah, it
was full on. useless story arc.
It was really frustrating, and it's a problem I've had with several of the Yakuza games, where there will be this like meandering story where it like really hypes something up, and then when it finally gets resolved, you realized it really meant nothing at all. And now that it has merged back into the main story, you're kind of just upset you got diverted by it for a little bit there.
Yeah. Well, and then at the end of this story, I'm trying to think of a way to say it without spoilers, but there's another character that is a part of that they keep talking about, who you're waiting to meet to see to be them to be involved.
They're
and
just
then
like,
the
yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, at the end they're like, no, yeah, that's fine actually, and you're like, okay, cool. Can we meet him? No.
He's
Will
over there.
we ever? No. Are you gonna go be with this person who you've been fighting to get back for so long?
No, he's over there.
Well, so what is the fucking point in any of it?
He's okay now. It's fine.
Like, what is happening?
Yeah, it was really... And I love that there was like a hand wave at the end. Like, is he okay? Yeah, he's getting married. To who? Anyway, let's go on.
Another human being.
Right? Anyway.
Just fucking bizarre.
Yeah, so there was that little bit. And when I did get that character back, they immediately... you're in the middle of a boss gauntlet, essentially, because it's like several back-to-back bosses when you get that character back, and that character shows up right before the last boss that you fight in this gauntlet, and they're forced into your party for that fight, and their equipment sucks because they were reverted to their basic job, and they are not wearing the equipment they had when they left. And so they were just getting their ass kicked that entire fight. Fortunately, all my other characters have the ability to revive now because they had to use it. I am confused about the game as a whole at this point, though, because I feel like I'm over level because nothing really hurts me. Even like these bosses, except for that one time with that one character that was under-equipped.
That's not completely... contrary to my experience, and as far as I can tell, I was way under level where the game wanted me to be. Now it wasn't like literally I'm taking no damage, but it was like I was never even really worried about a game over.
But
ever.
like I never heal even at boss battles because I never take enough damage to worry about it. Like maybe I'll lose, like against a harder boss, I'll lose like 20 or 30% of my health, if that. And I can just normal attack. I have all these nice abilities I can use, but I don't need them. It's just that
I use my abilities pretty prodigiously.
Yeah, well, I can use them, and they certainly speed up battles.
You just don't need to,
right? And it helps to speed them up because a lot of especially the bosses, but
they're
some of the
HP
regular
sponges, man.
Yeah, they're just health sponges, and they take forever. I just finished a series of sub-stories, which were just dumb and ridiculous, where I had to tame a bunch of circus animals, and it was just 3 of them back to back, and each one had just a ludicrous amount of health, but couldn't really hurt me very much at all. So I was just setting it on auto and walking away and listening to hear when the battle ended from the other room.
Yeah.
Because they weren't hurting me, but it was just taking forever to damage them. So that the balance in the game is very off. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it's funny for as fun of a game as it is. It seems very sloppily designed.
I feel like as much as I am enjoying the game, the weakest part of the game is the combat system.
Oh yeah, I would heavily agree with that, which is the inverse of Yakuza for me, regular Yakuza.
I kind of felt that way in some of the other Yakuza games, especially 3 and maybe 4. But yeah, this one definitely has the weakest combat system thus far, just because like it has all these interesting ideas, but they range between unnecessary and just not enough to actually make up for how much health these enemies have. So it's very strange.
Let's do some news.
Yes, sir.
First
all
up,
this
a UK company,
new to you, right?
New information. A UK company is allowing customers to pay to destroy old electronics, including game consoles.
That's
which is not a new phenomenon. We've seen these kind of businesses before, and I had the wonderful idea last night that, you can just do that at any old junkyard.
Right, yeah.
I mean, you should go in there with a bat and just go ape shit. For probably as long as you want. They probably don't care. Indie meta horror visual novel Doki Doki Literature Club Plus sells 500,000 copies in its first 2 weeks.
And good for them, because that's a solid game. I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would, because I normally really hate visual novels. But
video games.
And video games and joy. But no, it was a really good and solid game, and I'm glad that he's actually selling copies, because the original version of it was freeware. You could just download it. So now that he is making the same game available but for money now, I'm glad he's actually making something off of it.
Konami announces that their soccer title eFootball, formerly known as Pro Evolution Soccer, will be going free to play on all systems and will no longer use the Fox engine, meaning that now nothing uses the Fox engine. It's finally been put out to pasture.
Unless they maybe make Metal Gear Survive 2.
Oh, please don't. Please don't.
Now, they from what I read, so they're taking the console version of the game and they're adding the free-to-play mechanics from the mobile version of the game and then downporting that console version to work on mobile.
Yeah.
Because Konami.
You
did skip a couple of news things.
Oh, I'm not going to read those. I read those last night. I don't feel like... I'm sorry, I scrolled. Nintendo Switch Online adds new titles. Internationally, we got Claymates, Jelly Boy, Bomboozle, all on SNES. In Japan, they got Bomboozle, Dead Dance, also known as Tough Enough, and Shin Megami Tensei, If. ... If. That's it. That's the whole title.
Yeah, and I mentioned this obviously last night when we recorded this, but what I find really odd with those games is Bomboozle was not called that outside of Japan originally. But not only are they calling it by its Japanese name, but they photoshopped the cover art so that the American cover has the Japanese name on it.
ROM hacks. Right? Saturn ROM hacks.
It's not even a ROM hack, it's an image hack.
They're getting in on them. They have to put it in the ROM. It's a ROM hack.
No, they're probably just releasing the Japanese ROM.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's probably true. A new PS5 digital edition redesign may be up to 0.7 pounds lighter.
Oh, thank God.
Don't you know?
Oh,
I know. It was 0.7 pounds heavier than I was willing to lift.
Yeah, definitely for a digital console. Like maybe if it had a disk drive, I could put up with those 0.7 pounds.
Like, what the fuck are they even taking out to make it?
A fan.
Yeah. Valve announces a $1 million Counter-Strike Go art contest.
Weird.
I guess. I saw that today while I was installing Counter-Strike.
Oh, yeah?
And so, cool, I guess.
Did you decide to make some art to get your $1 million?
No. I could take my doodles I do during the show and put that on there. That'd be good. Amazon's MMO is reportedly bricking RTX 3090 cards.
Oh.
So that sucks.
Yeah, well, fortunately, Amazon can afford to replace them, right?
Right. They can, but will not.
Yeah, that sounds
It's not going to happen. The final PS Vita digital releases were published on July 23rd.
Aww.
So, bye-bye, Vita.
It tried so hard. Well, Sony didn't try at all, but the Vita itself tried pretty hard.
But Vita means life.
I don't care how many times I hear that. That's still funny.
Information about the canceled Zelda game from Retro Studios turns up in data found in the previous Giga leak.
I'm stoked about that. I love learning about any kind of canceled game or removed elements from existing games. I'm always a fan of that.
A whole Xbox 360 character fits in the eyelashes of an Unreal Engine 5 character.
Thanks, Epic. That's the
character in question is Eyelashy the Eyelash. And he fits within an eyelash.
It's just the dumbest metric to and I'm if I read it right, they're referring to the poly count of
but even then it's like at that point you're like,
who cares?
Why are you putting this much?
Right.
Well, some poor graphic artist somewhere just got out of school and he's like, I can't wait to make a difference with my graphic design and my art. And they're like, oh yeah, you're doing eyelashes. Like, all right, that's gonna take me like 4 seconds. What am I doing the rest of the day? And they're like, no. You're doing Unreal Engine 5 eyelashes.
These are high
strap
poly
the
count
fuck in.
Eyelashes.
Why? Why does it need to be high poly count? It's an eyelash.
Right?
It's one fucking shape. It's a line. Yeah. Why does it need to...
And people aren't going to notice it no matter how many polys you put in there.
Reports, I like to imagine that they only made the eyelashes high poly. Everything else looks like shit. But they're like, look at these fucking... Like when Spirits Within came out and they're like, look at the fucking hair. And you're like, yeah, but the rest of it looks weird. And they're like, yeah, but look at their hair.
It's got ultra high poly eyelashes, but the rest of it looks like N64 GoldenEye.
Reports show that the messy release of Warcraft 3 Reforged was due to internal pressure and timelines from management, which is unfortunately not the worst thing you'll hear about Blizzard management this week.
Yeah, well, last week we covered the rest of it.
Well, we're going to be hearing that one for a while.
Yeah, probably.
EA is rebooting Dead Space after killing it. And let me tell you, EA, nobody trusts you with it. Nobody trusts you to do the right thing.
But they always have a great track record of killing franchises, destroying the studios that built them, and then rebooting it, right?
Definitely. That won't come up again in like 5 minutes.
Certainly not.
A fan spent $357, that's $14 per second, to get a video cassette with 25 seconds of new footage from the canceled N64 version of Mother 3.
I love that you remembered how many dollars
I did remember the calculation we found last night.
But yeah, that's if you can afford it, great. But
good on you.
But
good on you.
I am a big fan of that series, and as I mentioned, I'm a big fan of unreleased information. I wouldn't spend $357 for 25 seconds of something.
It's in the community now.
It is, and that's very nice of them.
The 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games, which are being held in 2021, are they going to do? Then when are they going to do 2021? Is it going to be?
They only hold Olympics every other year.
Oh, okay. So it'll fix itself. I don't know anything about the Olympics. Okay. Anyway, it opened with a medley of classic video game music.
Yeah, and it was some good music too. It wasn't just like phoned in beeps and boops like we used to hear from anyone that tried to reference video game music. It was Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy. There was some Nier music in there. There was Gradius music, which I didn't expect that one. I want to say there was some Zelda in there. Just some good stuff.
Yeah, it was exciting.
Yeah.
Despite some reports, Nintendo assures investors that they are not expecting a higher profit margin on the OLED Switch and are not currently planning on releasing a new model.
Yeah, and
bye-bye Switch Pro.
Right, they wouldn't say that to their investors unless they were worried that their investors would think otherwise.
Right, because they can get in trouble for,
that's
a
not
revealing that
issue.
kind of information.
Right.
Yeah. Tencent buys UK developer Sumo Digital. Did I get that? Was it Sumo Digital? I think we had it wrong in the notes last night. Okay, good.
Yeah, and they've done some good stuff. They've worked with Sega and with I want to say they worked with Sony in the past. They've put out some decent games and some great ports in the past.
Yeah. Tencent is the world's largest game company, don't you know?
So hopefully they continue to do good things.
Yeah.
And that Tencent lets them continue to do good things.
They have been Tencent for most of their international purchases seems to be mostly hands off. Yeah. Of course, that is right now.
Right.
They could wake up tomorrow and go, now we are in control of everything. I mean, they just, who knows? Nintendo will no longer accept credit cards as payment on the Japanese eShops for Wii U or 3DS starting January 18th, 2022.
But Justin, Vita is life.
Yeah, it is Saturn. It is.
And this happened to the European eShops for the Wii U and the 3DS. I want to say last year. And it's sad, but it just feels like they don't want to pay to renew a security certificate. That's what it feels like to me.
Saturn, they can't afford it because they're not making any more extra money off the OLED Switch, so they can't. It's just clearly this little tiny Japanese company.
Yeah, they'll never have that kind of money.
Please buy our toys.
Yeah. Did you read about the monetization structure on that Pokemon Unite game that Tencent put out on the Switch?
No, but I'll tell you, the mobile Nintendo games are some of the most predatory.
Well, this is on the Switch. It's not mobile.
I didn't even hear the word Switch. I had heard people talking about Unite. I just assumed it was mobile trash.
No, it is on the Switch. It's put out by Tencent, or it's probably put out by Nintendo, but designed by Tencent. And from what I am hearing, it is the most predatory game ever, basically. And it is very pay to win, and it's a MOBA. So that's a poor combination of things there. If you have kids and you have a Switch and they like Pokemon, try not to let them know that this exists.
If you have kids, maybe just don't tell them about Nintendo at all. I mean, between the mobile offerings, between locking game features to hard-to-find toys, just between everything, between the artificially limiting things, removing digital goods, it all adds up.
Yeah,
and what it equals is buy Sega stuff because it's always available.
Right.
Let's get into the topic at hand. Today, again, we are talking Command and Conquer.
It's like there's an echo in here.
Which is basically, yo dog, we heard you like RTS series, so we put multiple RTS series in your RTS series with FMV.
Yeah. It's basically a spin-off series.
Yeah. Release information. The original game Command & Conquer was developed by Westwood Studios, published by Virgin Interactive and Nintendo on the N64 port. Came out on DOS and Mac 95, Saturn PS1 1996, Windows 1997, and N64 1999.
It's weird that it took 2 years to go to Windows.
It's weird that 4 years later they put it on N64.
Well, you needed to compete with that PS1 version that was 3 years old.
N64 is just dying there like, we don't care, give us anything. It's bad, though. We don't care.
It's got to be better than StarCraft 64.
What isn't? Most recent entry, not counting remakes or spin-offs, is Command & Conquer 4 Tiberian Twilight, developed by EA Los Angeles, published by EA on PC in 2010. Most recent release is Command & Conquer Remastered Collection, developed by Petroglyph Games and Lemon Sky Studios, published digitally by EA and physically by LRG. Came on released on PC in 2020. Yeah. And as far as first encounters, basically one time in high school during a programming competition, someone showed up and was like, hey, install this. We're playing Command and Conquer. And I was like, I don't know what that is. And they're like, we're going to LAN it. And I was like, I don't know what that is either. And then someone took out a big giant 100 port network switch and plugged all our laptops into it.
If you just put out a survey to the entire internet to say when was the first time you played Command and Conquer, I think one time at a programming convention would not be the least common first sentence of that description.
Yeah. Anyway, I played it. It was fun, and I just kind of forgot about it until a couple years later. So obviously I played Red Alert 2 way after it had been, because I was in high school during my programming competition days.
Right.
And so I was a teenager, it was the 2000s. It was 2006 or so. So it had been out for a little while.
Yeah.
By the time
it was already
I
a 5+ year old game at that point.
But then I was working at GameStop and Command & Conquer 3 came out, and I was like, all right, I played Red Alert 2, which I guess is the second game. And so that makes this the third game.
Clearly.
I remember it was basically like Allies and Soviets, weird alternate timeline Earth. Okay, I pick up Command & Conquer 3, and a bald guy with a goatee is shouting at me, and I don't know what I did wrong. And there's aliens, and everything's got green crystals on it. And I was like, I don't know what's happening, but I like it. I played a bunch of Command & Conquer 3, I put it down, and then I just forgot any of it existed until Remastered, and I picked that up. And that was basically it until 2 weeks ago.
It still is weird to me when you say things like 2006 and still in high school at the same time.
Yeah, well, I graduated in 07.
Okay,
so
that's so weird. I remember the days back when CNC and Warcraft 2 and StarCraft were peak RTS, and there was heavy debates, much like the Sega v Nintendo debates. However, you had to get much deeper into the nerd circles to find the people that would have the RTS debates.
Right. This was 4 arguments down.
Yeah. You had to get past the people that were arguing Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat. And
it's funny. Your school experience was so very like this versus this. You talk about it a lot, and I do not remember that being my school experience whatsoever. No one gave a shit.
It wasn't just school. It was also in magazines. The magazines were definitely propping
Maybe
all
that was
up.
it. Maybe because by the time I was paying, by the time I was like, 11, 12 years old enough to be like, going out, finding and reading gaming magazines, like it was the 2000. And shit had gotten weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Also, I think what it was is I liked handhelds, and it was just like, well, obviously everyone knows the Game Boy's the best one, and then there are other ones.
There were Game Boy v Game Gear debates as well. I mean, there was an obvious winner.
Saturn, when an argument is that short, you can't call it a debate.
For like 6 months to a year, it looked like it was going to be a real fight between those two.
Man!
And then it was.
And then the games came out, and they were like, "Oh, never mind."
Yeah, pretty much. But no, yeah, I had first gotten introduced to Command and Conquer by some of those people that absolutely were certain that it was 1,000% better than anything Blizzard had put out. So, and I had already played Warcraft 2 at that point. I can't remember if I had already played StarCraft. I want to say I had, and I was introduced to Red Alert 1, and it was fine. It was a game, and I enjoyed it enough that I was like, maybe I'll pick it up if it's on sale or something. And I don't remember playing it again until either Tiberian Sun or Red Alert 2. But mostly I just listened to people complain about them. Both fans and not fans complaining about the series seemed to be the one thing they had in common.
Yeah. Before we break down most of the games in the Command & Conquer series, Saturn, why don't you step us through kind of the development and history of the franchise at a very macro level and the rise and fall of Westwood Studios.
Yeah, because that's a sad story. So you got Westwood. They were founded in 1985 by Brett Sperry and Lewis Castle. Early
Hey, you didn't say Brent this
I know.
time.
I read it the right way. I actually made sure of that too. Early on they were just doing contract work for studios like Epix and SSI. Their first big successes were games like Eye of the Beholder for SSI and Dune 2 for Virgin Interactive. And the reputation they built from games like that is what led to them being acquired by Virgin Interactive in 1993, shortly after Dune 2's release. Late in the development of Dune 2, the team at Westwood wanted to take what they had learned from the game and make an original IP out of it. And Sperry said that CNC was basically the net result of their Dune 2 wish list, all the things they wanted to put in the game but couldn't for technical or time reasons. They instead moved them into what would become Command and Conquer. And I did clarify last night. I'll clarify again. That is Dune 2, not Doom 2. It's,
Dune with Sting and Jean-Luc Picard, not Doom with The Rock.
Right, exactly.
If you're a movie buff. Which even that joke won't make sense after the new Dune movie comes out.
Oh, that's true.
Everyone will be like, Sting's not in that. What are you talking about?
That's okay. Just watch the old one again. It's fine.
I mean, don't, though.
So their original concept for the game was supposed to be a high fantasy world, but then they were inspired by real life events. The first Gulf War, especially
inspired by the Gulf War.
Yeah,
the Gulf War has inspired me. Everyone,
right? So that kind of steered the direction of the project. Sperry told Computer and Video Games magazine that the factions in the game were based on his belief that future wars wouldn't be between nations, but between society and decentralized anarchistic terror organizations.
That's a little creepy.
Yeah, a little bit. Granted, the interview was in like 04, 05 that I read that from.
Right.
So he had some knowledge of what would happen after the 90s. So that may have colored his memory on it. And the other thing that I had read in that interview was apparently he was very super gung-ho on the name Command and Conquer.
He had a vision, Saturn. During the Gulf War, he had a vision. He said, "It must be named Command and Conquer." His eyes rolled back in his head like the Undertaker, you know?
Like, apparently the rest of the staff members were still spitballing names, and he was like, "No, the name is perfect because it describes exactly what you do in the game.
It shall be known."
So
he's in a robe.
Waving an empty book around.
Well, where did he get that staff?
Right.
He brought it from home.
Bought it at a Renaissance fair. And the FMVs in the game, so they had a talent director on staff, but otherwise they didn't have any talent. Like, they had programming and art talent and all that, but they didn't have acting talent. So the FMVs, they intentionally made them campy because they knew they could never compete with the kind of production values you saw on TV or in film. So they just decided to ham it up really as much as they could.
Make it fun.
Right, and they did. So the first game, all the actors are just random staff members at Westwood. The only professional actor in it was their talent director, who was also an actor and is an occasional actor. He wasn't like a full-time actor.
Right.
And
what do you do for a living? Occasional actor.
He's it's part-time acting. It's after work.
Yeah.
He goes to the film studio and just, odd jobs, waiting tables.
Yeah, just
So Red Alert, which was the second game in the series, was originally intended to be a prequel to the original game, and it does have some references to factions and characters that would later appear in that first game as well as other games in the series. However, they later decided that it just didn't fit into the narrative that they wanted to have, so they split Red Alert to be its own separate universe from the main series. And then in 1998, Virgin decided they no longer wanted to be a part of the North American video games market at all.
And they said bye-bye.
Yeah, they didn't want to sell games here. They didn't want to make games here.
Is that when they shut down all the Virgin megastores?
No, that was many years later. That was like 04 or 05.
Was that the only person that thought having a store called the Virgin Megastore was very weird and off-putting?
I worked right next door to Virgin Megastore. My very first job was at an electronics boutique right next door to Virgin Megastore. And man, like the first 6 months you're there, every joke about it is funny. After that, no jokes about it are funny. It gets increasingly less
look at that
funny.
nerd. Betcha he shops at the Virgin Megastore.
Yeah.
I think it's the emphasis. If you put the emphasis on Virgin, it seems real creepy.
Right.
The Virgin Megastore.
For people listening from overseas in Europe, we don't see the Virgin logo everywhere. It's not that common over here. Like it comes up, but it's nowhere near as common over here.
For people that are outside of America, is it still funny to you? Let us know. We want to know.
Right.
Because it's still funny to us.
Yeah, it's still funny every time.
Even when I boot up old games that are Virgin Interactive, I'm like, Virgins wish someone would interact with them. Like I can't not make a joke.
So that's a good one though. Gotta write that one down. But no, so
hey, thanks.
so Virgin Interactive decided to sell off their U.S. assets at that point. So they had Westwood Studios and they had another studio called Burst Studios, and they sold both of those to EA for $122.5 million.
Mm-hmm. A steal.
Yeah. At that time, it was kind of a steal because at that time, Westwood's games were estimated to be between 5 and 6% of the total PC game market.
Mm-hmm. Which is the same percentage as Microsoft Solitaire.
No, I think Solitaire is more than that.
I guess it would be. It comes with Windows.
Not anymore.
That was their competition.
Right?
Oh, no. Now I'm sad.
And now you got to download it from the Microsoft Store.
I installed the Windows 7 game pack on my
that's good.
computer.
Very exciting.
So I got the goods.
Yeah, if you install the
also, I don't have to see shitty ads in Solitaire.
Yeah, not only does it give you shitty ads, but occasionally it just pops open your web browser to their website to try to encourage you to spend money. That's
it's fucking Solitaire.
I know. And even if you do want to buy it to make the ads go away, you can only buy a monthly subscription. to solitaire.
Yeah, that's what you want to do. Hey, honey, do we have enough money for me to subscribe monthly to Solitaire?
Right.
Oh, no, it costs more than literally just buying a pack of cards that I would own forever.
Right.
Yeah. No, I know I'm dumb.
Yeah, but it's got weekly challenges.
The weekly challenges beat Solitaire. What do you need challenges for?
So, the first new Command & Conquer game that came out following EA's purchase of Westwood and Burst Studios was Tiberian Sun, which has retroactively been called Command & Conquer 2. It was also called that during development of the game, but when it was finally published, they decided to remove the numeral, I guess not to confuse people that had bought Red Alert and were wondering how this second game was not 2. So they did release Tiberian Sun, which did go on to be a critical and financial success, despite some fan backlash.
Eventually, they got it all fixed up,
right? And it came out after a lot of delays. It had gotten,
and I do want to say, rightful fan backlash.
True, yeah. Not to say there aren't fierce,
not against
Tiberian
the aesthetic,
Sun.
but they had promised. We'll talk about
right.
it.
Yeah,
that's
we'll
the
get
thing.
That. But yeah, it had gotten pushed back so much that it came out a full year after StarCraft, which is an influential game in the RTS world.
Yeah,
and if it had come out alongside StarCraft, it could have honestly changed the landscape of the RTS world. So getting pushed back did not help. Burst Studios went on to be renamed to Westwood Pacific, and they developed Red Alert 2 while Tiberian Sun was being developed. Following Red Alert 2's release, they were later renamed again to EA Pacific, and then they put out Command & Conquer Generals. And they did that because Westwood was busy on some other things, like Command & Conquer Renegade.
They're just so busy ruining FPS games.
Right. Yeah, so Westwood had years of success with the Command & Conquer series, but after Command & Conquer Renegade, the FPS spinoff, and their MMO sci-fi game Earth and Beyond did really poorly, both commercially and critically, EA decided that they would close down Westwood and EA Pacific, and that the remaining assets and employees from both of those companies would be merged into EA Los Angeles, and many of the employees were laid off around that time. So that was pretty much the death of Westwood. And
what? Layoffs from EA?
I know.
No way. Right? Not them.
So after closing down Westwood, the franchise just kind of laid dormant for 3 years. And that's when EA put out the CNC The First Decade Pack, which was a collection of all prior Command & Conquer games that had come out to that point, including Renegade and their 6 expansion packs. So it was a lot of game for EA to put on a series of discs and sell as one. I want to say it was a $40 or $50 package at the time. And so it did really well because it had a lot of good games in there. And because it did so well, it convinced them to release Command & Conquer 3, and then Red Alert 3, and then Command & Conquer 4 over the next 4 years. However, Command & Conquer 4 was received very poorly when it came out. A lot of that was, some of that was due to changes in gameplay, but a lot of it was due to EA having really aggressive DRM on the disc that made it really difficult to play the game that you purchased. And this was
not EA.
Yeah, I know. And this was before every PC game was sold digitally. Like, most of them were going that way by 2010, but it wasn't 100% that way yet. So most people that bought the game very likely bought it on disc and then couldn't play it.
Yeah.
So because it underperformed, no future games were announced. In fact, the only things that were announced as far as Command & Conquer goes over the next decade was a browser-based spin-off game and then a mobile game, and nothing else really happened.
Rivals. Yeah, Command & Conquer Rivals, which got 71 on Metacritic. Just throwing it out there.
For a mobile game, that sounds amazing.
Let's talk story. Yeah. Again, there are multiple different series within the Command & Conquer banner. You have the Tiberian series, which I've always kind of considered the main
I would say that.
Command & Conquer series. In the Tiberian series, it takes place after a new resource called Tiberium becomes available to two groups, the Global Defense Initiative and the Brotherhood of Nod,
Right.
and they duke it out for control over this new powerful resource, Tiberium. The GDI is backed by world governments. Nod is an ancient secret society with ties to terrorist organizations, and Kane, played by Joseph D. Cusin, is the religious zealot-type leader of Nod. And basically over the 4 games and various expansions chronicling the Tiberium Wars, Kane shifts roles tons of times. I mean, he's really kind of the main character of Command and Conquer.
Right. Yeah, he has appeared in most of the games, even the first Red Alert.
Yeah, so he's the Tiberian series is really about
Kane.
Him. Yeah, it's Kane's story, and it really is interesting. It really does add up to a heck of a story. Red Alert is kind of it's Soviets versus Allies, and like you said, the first game was supposed to be a prequel,
right?
But then they decided it's an alternate timeline. Right. You know, theoretically concurrent with the main Tiberian timeline.
And since it had the 2 different endings, the Allied ending in Red Alert, because it's basically just Allies versus Soviets.
Right.
The Allied ending leads into the rest of the Red Alert series, and the Soviet ending kind of leads into into the first game, into Tiberian Dawn. But you kind of have to take some liberties with it to get there. And you have to ignore every other Red Alert game.
Yeah. Oh, is that all?
Yeah.
That's the themes of the Tiberian series kind of shift from near future, real world what if scenarios in the first game to weird post-apocalyptic alien sci-fi in the second game to just full on crazy batshit sci-fi for the third and fourth games. They just kind of go totally off the rails. Red Alert, I think it gets kind of more comical as time goes on.
Right.
More maybe not comical, more exaggerated.
That's fair, yeah.
It
definitely seems to take itself
less
seriously anyway.
Right. I feel like early on it definitely felt a little sillier than and it could just be like the bad accents and the goofy acting making it seem sillier than the original Command and Conquer.
Yeah, I think part of it is that in the original game it was cheesy acting in a sci-fi scenario, and we're kind of used to that. And in Red Alert, it's cheesy acting and what's supposed to be a closer to real world scenario,
like political drama.
Right. So it looks much stupider.
And then you have Generals, which is pretty much what if Command and Conquer was more grounded in real world politics, but like kind of South Park's versions of real world politics.
Yeah, just basically the exaggerated parody of everything.
Yeah. Let's talk about the FMV because it is a very notable part of the Command and Conquer franchise.
Right.
So Command and Conquer in almost every follow-up game in both Command and Conquer series is, well, I guess, all 3, but really it's Red Alert and the Tiberian games. Were well known for their FMV cutscenes. In most games, they're shot in first person with the viewer assuming the role of the commander. So when they're doing these cutscenes, these FMV cutscenes, they're talking to you, the player. Tiberian Sun famously altered this, and as such, it feels more kind of like a low-budget movie.
Yeah.
There are a lot of shots where you're just watching actors act, and they're not talking to you.
They're not, and aside from James Earl Jones, most of them aren't great actors either.
No, and it really feels really sci-fi original movie.
That's being generous.
Yeah, I don't know. Have you seen some of the sci-fi original movies?
I try not to.
The FMV really starts out as, like you said, very hokey.
Yeah.
I mean, bad to watch some of the time. And it sort of evolves over time to actually pretty high production values with actually some notable actors that are obviously having a good time with their roles.
Right.
I watched a lot of the FMV from these games because I didn't have time to play the campaigns of like 16 different games.
What?
I know. And I watched them as like movies on YouTube. And man, oof, they're interesting.
They have aged.
As a part of a game, they're very fun.
Yeah. As
like a standalone movie, well, you might just watch a movie instead. I did just kind of jot down a list of just random notable actors from the Command & Conquer games that this is in no order. So if there's anyone super famous that I excluded, then I'm sorry. I just literally scrolled down a list and picked out big names.
Right.
So notable actors from the Command & Conquer games in the FMV cutscenes include James Earl Jones in Command & Conquer 2, Michael Ironside in Command & Conquer 3, Billy D. Williams in Command & Conquer 3, J.K. Simmons and Tim Curry in Red Alert 3, George Takei in Red Alert 3, Ric Flair, and Malcolm McDowell, Caligula himself.
It's so weird that you associate Malcolm McDowell with that.
It's my favorite movie he did.
What about Clockwork Orange?
It was okay. It wasn't Caligula good.
Oh, God.
Was not Caligula good.
Huh.
What was I talking about?
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, so Red Alert 3 had some big names in it. Interestingly enough, Joseph Cusin, again, was the Westwood Studios talent director. He played Kane in the first game. He also received the Guinness World Record for the longest-running actor in a video game role in 2008 for having played the part of Kane for over 15 years. Presumably, they wrote that for him into the book.
Yeah.
He must have a friend at Guinness.
Yeah, so I looked that up. It was the Guinness World Records video game edition that they put out that year.
Okay. Yeah.
And they must have really been stretching to try to find things to fill pages at that point.
Yeah, I can imagine them just being like, character in most games that have Mario in the name. Mario. I feel like that's one of those things where someone's like, video games are cool, let's do a video game book. And then everyone got excited about the project. Then they sat down and they were like
14 pages in, they were like, this is just a high score table. What are we doing?
Yeah, they're like, this is high scores and basically marketing for video games. Also, video games aren't documented for shit.
No.
So,
yeah.
And anyway, there are lots and lots of more actors in the FMV
sure.
Command & Conquer games. As far as gameplay, they are RTS games.
Except for the one that's an FPS.
Oh, God. Stop it. Like most RTS games, gameplay is separated into story and campaign, and not story and campaign.
Right.
Story campaign.
There you go.
You have custom single-player skirmish modes or multiplayer missions and maps.
Right.
The single-player story further splits into multiple franchises discussed below, each with their own narratives. Moment-to-moment gameplay follows most RTS structures from that era.
Right.
You have a collection, a unit collecting dudes that go out and collect whatever item you're collecting. And in the Tiberian games, you collect Tiberium. In Red Alert, you get ore and gems. In Generals, you get shipping containers. For some reason.
Yeah.
You use the
people could
resources.
use those shipping containers right now.
I know, right? Now it makes sense. In 2021, we're like, yeah, fucking shipping containers. Back then, it was like, what are you doing? You use your resources to build structures.
Right.
These structures give you access to new units, and it goes from there. It's outside of some story missions. The winning player or team will be the last one standing.
Right.
Of course, you can set different, goals for the end of whatever skirmish mode you're playing in some of them. Unlike competing RTS games, new structures are usually constructed in construction yards and then placed fully complete on the base. So you're not doing that thing where you're building a building.
Right.
In really the early games, all of it is kind of handled through this little menu on the right side of the screen, very reminiscent of Dune 2.
Yeah, and that menu never really leaves either. It's like people who are used to other RTSs, like Blizzard RTSs, you're used to clicking on a unit and suddenly your side panel or bottom panel or whatever will change to that unit's specific things. But in CNC, at least in all the earlier games, that side panel is pretty static. It's basically your entire operations menu. So you can build new units, you can build new buildings, all from that one menu.
Mm-hmm. And it feels very kind of, because even with like the unit management in the earlier games, it's before we had things like attack move. It's kind of rough, and so the game feels sort of
command sets,
hands-offy. Let's talk individual games, and just as a note on scope, because the franchise is so massive, we are not talking about Renegade any more than we already have. I know you're crushed. You're crushed, Saturn. We're
okay. Before we completely ignore Renegade for the rest of this episode, last night you told this amazing story about the mouse control in the vehicle.
Okay, so I assumed Renegade came out before Halo.
It did not. It
because
came out several
when
years
you play
after
FPS, there's this pre-Halo and post-Halo feel in FPS games,
Right.
and in Halo had great vehicle controls.
Okay.
And really, I don't know that I want to say revolutionized, but really set the standard for like vehicles in FPS games. Really did. And so I'm playing Renegades, and normally the second I opened it, I was like, this is bad. I don't want to do this. I want to do something else. But I'm like, I'm doing it for the show. I got to put it through its paces. I'll fucking try it, man. And I'm playing the game, and it's real bad. And it looks real bad, and it sounds real bad. And the shooting sucks. And then I go and I get in a tank, and I'm like, well, at least it's fucking vehicles. That's cool. And I get in the tank, and normally when you get in a tank, the movement on the tank is slow, so you have to like do these sweeping motions with your mouse to control your tank, to aim it, right?
That makes sense.
Well, in Renegade, the tank turret just moves as fast as your mouse does. And I keep my mouse on like 10,000 DPI. So I get in the tank and I'm immediately like, oh my God! And I'm like flying all over the screen with this fucking tank. And when I got in, I was holding forward too. So I'm like trucking down the road, slamming into shit, looking at the sky, trying to figure out why I can't aim at anything. It's just bad.
Do you remember like almost 10 years ago, it might have been more than that, there was an internet meme that was these get on videos. It was like, the one that I always remember was N64 GoldenEye, and it's just like some clips from GoldenEye, and then all of a sudden it's like I don't remember if it's a J-pop song or a K-pop song, and so I apologize because I don't speak either language and wouldn't be able to tell you, but it just cuts into this song, and as soon as it does, it changes from the regular graphics in the game to glitched graphics, where just like polygons are just like flipping all over the goddamn place. I imagine that's what your tank was doing.
It was kind of like that. It's just, when you're expecting resistance on something and there's none, it's like if I went to like pull a chair out at a restaurant and it was made of balloons, I'd fling it across the fucking room.
Now I want to see chairs made of balloons.
So let's talk about the major games of the franchise, just kind of briefly on each of them. First up, you have Command & Conquer, retroactively titled Tiberian Dawn. Came out in 1995, as we talked about before, on Windows, Mac, DOS, N64, PS1, Sega Saturn, toasters, everything. Yeah. The initial game, again, was largely based on Dune 2. And when you play Dune 2, you really do see that lineage. Oh, yeah. It really feels an awful lot like Proto Command & Conquer. Dune 2 is I would say Command & Conquer is kind of on the far end of, like, tolerable in 2021. Like, I can play it and have some fun with it. Dune 2 is a little far outside of that for me, but I respect what it's doing.
It is.
It's like, I think the weirdest part for me with Dune 2 was to build a building. It tells you, all right, this building is 4 squares. It's 2x2 squares. And you go, okay, well, I want to build this building. They go, well, you got to build concrete. And you go, what? And they go, you got to build concrete to build it on. It's a desert planet. Oh, okay, well, I'll put down a concrete square. All right, I put one down. Can I build my building? No. You need to build and place 3 more of them because it is a 2x2 building, and you need to build each concrete tile under your buildings. Yeah. And you're like, oh my God, Dune, stop.
Yeah, it's pretty dated. It is neat, especially to look at the console version of Dune 2 to try the Genesis.
Yeah, it was on the Genesis, which has a weird lineup of strategy games for some reason. You've got Herzog's Vi, you've got Dune 2, you've got other stuff I don't remember. Really, that 2 is enough. That's 2 more than Genesis had. Did Genesis have any RTS games? Had that Napoleon game, or not Genesis? Super Nintendo is what I was trying to say.
Got very confused there.
Super Nintendo, didn't they have like a Napoleon game on that?
I don't recall.
I guess in Japan they had the Fire Emblem games, which are kind of close to. Not really. I take it back. They're not really at all. I mean, you're moving units on a battlefield, so it's kind of
as close as you get.
There's no real time. It's just strategy, huh? Anyway, sidebar aside, again, there's 2 factions, GDI, Brotherhood of Non. They each have their own respective campaigns, complete with their own FMV. Players collect the game's resource, Tiberium, named because it is found from a meteor crash site near the Tiber River in Italy. You fuel your structures and your units, again, with the Tiberium, similar to the Melange, the spice mining in Dune 2. In the first game, GDI was the slower, stronger faction, and Nod relied on specialized units and big numbers.
Right.
And then Tiberian Sun comes out in 1999.
Yeah. It had some mixed reaction from the fan base. There were the people that absolutely defended it and assured everyone that it was definitely better than StarCraft. And then there was the people who said that it ruined the franchise and it's all EA's fault.
Well, so it came out on PC in 99. EA made the game freeware in 2010 to promote Command & Conquer 4.
It was very un-EA like them.
I know, and they did it multiple times with Command & Conquer games. It introduced a new isometric game engine, which totally changes the top-down view of regular Command & Conquer and Red Alert. And so already that's kind of cause for concern for big fan. Perspective shifts matter to dorks. So people were upset.
Right.
It introduced voxels for a lot of the units. So they're animated. They just look neat. I like it. They look interesting to me, but it's kind of strange. Virgin Interactive was facing financial difficulties at the time. They had just been sold to EA. EA published Tiberian Sun, but they had almost nothing to do with the game's development other than saying, hey, fucking finish this.
Yeah, that didn't stop people from blaming them for it, though.
No. The one time EA did not deserve the blame.
A lot of people say that EA rushed its release, but it was already a year past its scheduled release date at that point.
It was delayed several times. It had features cut in development. All the features were added later via expansions. Tiberian Sun got the Firestorm expansion, which added a lot of the stuff that had been cut. But there are reports that Westwood employees were pushed too hard to release the game, even though it was far from finished.
Right.
I feel like Tiberian Sun is I feel like it's kind of remembered as sort of a black sheep, or at least it was until there were many more black sheep in the Command & Conquer franchise, and then everyone went, oh, actually, Tiberian Sun was actually pretty good. It's very different from the first game. It looks different. It plays different. It feels different. It's very post-apocalyptic, 80s dystopia, Mad Max kind of vibe to it. Way more sci-fi than the original game.
Yeah.
And it's just like I like it.
It does come off
very
as very
bizarre.
strange, though.
It does, because it's kind of concurrent with StarCraft, but obviously was not influenced by StarCraft because they were already making the game.
Yeah, so it feels like the Bizarro universe late 90s RTS.
Yeah, like alternate timeline late 90s RTS, and I kind of love it for that. I kind of love that it's not that it does things better or worse than StarCraft.
Right.
It's that it just does them different.
Yeah, it came out in the Red Alert timeline.
Yeah,
that was.
Yeah, that's what it was. separate universe.
Right.
And so it has things like weird waypoint movement, like advancing guard movement. It adds a lot of, like, the way you control and move your units is really different from that like standardized StarCraft kind of RTS that I'm used to.
Right. That everything
and it's not. Yeah, and it's not that it just feels like when you play Red Alert in the original Command & Conquer, you're like, I get it, it's different than like the way StarCraft standardized and homogenized RTS is because it was before it.
Right.
This, it's not that it feels older, it's just a different design philosophy, and I really love how you interact with your army in this. It's very interesting, it's very fun, it's very different. I'm kind of sad they gave it up for the regular StarCraft style RTS and Command & Conquer 3 as much as I like Command & Conquer 3.
Well, it's because Westwood wasn't around anymore at that point.
Right. But it just was, I think there's a lot of really cool ideas in Tiberian Sun. Command & Conquer 3 Tiberium Wars came out. Released 2007 on Windows, Xbox 360, and Mac OS X.
So fucking weird.
This one really kind of standardizes the formula into, hey, this feels like a StarCraft, a post-StarCraft RTS. It's your bog standard. I don't want to say bog standard. It's still a good RTS. I still like it. They added things like a crane to make a second building queue. They have Tiberium spikes, which give money per second. They added a third faction, the Scrin. It feels very modern. It feels very like StarCraft 2 level modern.
Right.
And it's good. It's a good RTS, and I like it. Again, I'm sad that they gave up that like weird Bizarro RTS timeline, but it's still a good game.
It's weird that so many of these games got console releases.
I know. It's kind of strange.
For a big RTS series, and it's not remembered for it either.
No. And RTSs in general are not usually given console releases.
So it's just very strange.
I think a lot of it was maybe because the earlier games were so focused on, you just did everything from that side panel.
Right.
So it's easy to flip around in your side panel and even Tiberian Sun. It's still most of it's done through the side panel. Right. You control your army differently, and so it's easier to do with a controller than the StarCraft thing of I need to get a cursor onto that building. Right. What's the best way to do that with a D-pad? Command & Conquer 4 came out, Tiberian Twilight 2010. It reduced back down to 2 factions, although the Forgotten and Skrin are both present. I believe the Forgotten are Tiberian Sun.
That sounds right.
It included a co-op campaign, which is really cool. I believe they had that in Red Alert 3 as well. Acts as the final chapter in the Kane saga, and it's weird. It is very mobile. The whole game is you airdrop your mobile base in, build some stuff, pick your base stands up like a regular unit. You walk it across the map. You're just moving everything.
That's weird.
And while I don't think it's as inventive as the things Tiberian Sun did with RTSs, it's still a cool take on that standard RTS formula.
Right.
Of you're so used to in that mindset in RTSs where you're like, this is my base. I'm going to defend here. I don't have to worry about anything outside my base. I need to shore up all my defenses. And then it's like, hey, walk your base over there. And you're like, I'm sorry, what? I'm just going to move it.
Right.
But all my turrets and shit are here. And they're like, shouldn't have done that, idiot.
It's a shame.
It's just really fun.
It's a shame that EA bogged it down with super shitty DRM.
I know. Which thankfully is doesn't seem to be present in the current digital versions of the game.
Right.
They seem to have fixed it. Let's talk Red Alert games.
Yes.
The first Red Alert came out 96, 97 throughout the various territories. Right. It was on MS-DOS, Windows, PlayStation.
Yet another console port.
Again, was chronologically the prequel to the first CNC, but alternate timeline. The game came out as freeware in 2008, released on 2 discs, Allies and Soviet, which kind of gave it a cool... I remember when I was playing it in not this one, it was Red Alert 2, which was also 2 discs, Allies and Soviets. And my friend was like, yeah, you get the Soviets disc. And I was like, it's 2 games, in my head. Yeah. The 2 sides were really asymmetrical, which would go on to kind of become a staple of the series. Right. This time around, as compared to the GDI versus NOD, the Soviets were slow and lumbering, and the Allies were fast.
Right.
In multiplayer and skirmish modes, players could select specific countries from either side with specific benefits, which is cool.
Yeah. We kind of messed around with that and couldn't quite figure out what the benefits they had were, but...
Yeah, but they're there. Yeah. I think if we spent more time, we could have appreciated them.
Yeah.
Red Alert 2 came out a few years later, 2000. Yes. It takes ideas from Red Alert and kind of modernizes them for the time anyway to compete with stuff like StarCraft and Age of Empires.
Right. Well, it was the first. First, it was the first CNC game after StarCraft, and 2, it was the first CNC game not by Westwood because it was developed by Burst Studios.
And was the highest selling game in the series for a long time.
Yeah.
Really kind of the I think last night I had to call it the Street Fighter 2 of the Command & Conquer series.
It was considered the high watermark for the series for a very long time as well.
And I do wonder if a lot of that is because after Red Alert 2, barring Yuri's Revenge, the expansion, the next game was Renegade and then Generals and then the collection. Right. So between 2000 and 2007, there really wasn't a celebrated Command & Conquer game at all. And even then, Command & Conquer 3, I don't know that I would say it was celebrated. It was notable. People paid attention, but it felt like everyone had kind of collectively forgotten.
Yeah, I had completely forgotten that CNC 3 and 4 existed, and Red Alert 3 for that matter, until we were researching this episode. I had just, for some reason in my mind, I was just like, well, the whole series died with Westwood, and nothing happened after that. So it was when I noticed those in the list, I was like, "Oh shit, there was a 3, wasn't there?"
I believe Red Alert 2 was also when they finally added a proper attack move option.
Yes, that's when it because again they were trying to take those ideas that they had learned from StarCraft and also from Age of Empires 2 by that point as well.
True, also true.
So they were starting to modernize the series, and again, it was a different dev team within what was at that point EA. So you were getting some different ideas, and it did show through that it was a little different.
Yeah. Red Alert 3 came out in 2008. This was not developed by Westwood.
Yeah, it was the post-Westwood era.
And this one I know had Securom on it.
Yeah.
Which was the some shitty DRM.
Yep.
I do remember them having a big marketing push for this one, and I feel like I remember people liking it, but it wasn't. I don't know.
Like it got pretty decent reviews at the time. I didn't get around to playing it myself just because, again, I had mostly forgotten that the series was still going on. Right. This one also got a weird console release on PS3 and 360. So it was just more focus on being multi-platform for some reason. But no, it seems to have been pretty well received.
Generals and its expansion 0 Hour also came out. The Generals originally released in 2003, and it was actually the first post Westwood Command and Conquer game.
Well, it was still developed by Burst Studios, who had done Red Alert 2,
right?
Just under their new name of EA Pacific at that point,
right? And people liked it. It kind of got a collective. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember.
Fine.
I remember basically the consensus that I heard because I was working at EB at the time was, it's for not being Westwood, it's surprisingly good, but it's not as good as the old games.
Yeah. So now I'm going to bitch for a long time, several minutes about the collections.
Yes, sir.
Because I do want to talk about the collections. Because really, if you're playing these Command and Conquer games today,
this is your option.
These are your options. Right. Like a lot of the older ones aren't on Steam. They're not on GOG. No. We'll get to where they are right now. But first, there was the First Decade Collection, which was 2006. Yes. And like you said, includes Command and Conquer, Red Alert, Tiberian Sun, which I had the First Decade Collection. Well, I acquired it. I got a copy. Yeah, we'll say that. Yeah. Tiberian Sun didn't work on Windows 10. Just wouldn't at all. Red Alert 2 also didn't work on Windows 10. Wouldn't happen.
But did Renegade?
Renegade and Generals, actually Generals didn't work. No. Renegade worked.
Oh, good.
And after the tank fiasco, I turned it off. They also include all related expansions. You can't buy this one anymore. I couldn't get several of the games working well on Windows 10 anyway. Even if you can find a copy, I don't know. Like, if you got one lying around, install it, try it.
Yeah, I remember seeing it as recently as like 2010, 2011. I remember seeing it in stores.
Only a decade ago.
But I remember seeing it for like $5 or $10 at stores.
It's selling for more than that.
Oh,
now.
Okay. Yeah, EA had re-released it as a budget, like, jewel case only title for a while there.
Yeah. And then you have Command & Conquer: The Ultimate Collection, which, if you're buying the game now in 2021, that's kind of the only legit way to still buy it. It's available on Origin, and it says that it is available on EA Play. When you open the Origin store, it says it's on EA Play, and I go, oh, well, I have EA Play as per my Game Pass subscription, so I'll go install the EA Play desktop client. I open it up, and I cannot find Command & Conquer: The Ultimate Collection, so obviously something is wrong, so I go back to the Origin client, and I look, and it says, available on EA Play.
Yeah, see,
and
you
I
forgot to read the fine print.
Indeed, I did, because it is not available on Game Pass EA Play.
Yeah, so Game Pass actually specifies that it only supports games that have been moved to EA Desktop. If it's on EA Desktop, then you can play it. If it's still on Origin, you cannot play it.
So in other words, it's included in your EA Play, but you can't play it because we haven't made it work in the EA Desktop client.
Yeah.
And so I go, fine, I'll just fucking buy it on Origin. I want to have a couple of the games anyway. I'm after Command & Conquer 4. I'd like to have Command & Conquer 3 digital. I want to play the other games. I'll just pay them their $17. Gross. And I click on Get the Game. And when you do, it takes you to the subscription page for EA Play. And at this point, I'm yelling at you and at my computer, I can't subscribe to what I already am subscribed to. Because I have Game Pass and EA Play, of which you may not know this, there are two levels. There's EA Play and EA Play Pro or Premier or whatever. Which makes even fucking less. Just call one of them EA Game Pass. Or EA Game Pass Access, and then call the other one EA Play.
Well, here's the thing.
What?
There's technically 3 tiers of EA Play.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, there's the hidden tier, which is the Game Pass EA Play tier, which doesn't include all of EA Play, but they call it EA Play.
Exactly.
So I click on the thing and it wants me to subscribe, and I'm like, I'm yelling. I'm just like, please, I want to buy you.
Why?
And
at
then
this point, why do you still want to give money to EA?
Eventually, down at the bottom of the screen,
I
see a little tiny 10-point font text that says, buy the game for $17.99. It's like the tiniest little fucking thing. And I click it, and they let me buy it for $17.99. And they only charged my PayPal account 3 times for it.
Oh, only 3 times.
Only 3 in different amounts. One, they charged me once, no tax.
Yeah.
Then they charged me once for tax, and then they charged me back. They reversed the charge for the one with the tax. Like it was like someone was like calculating the number in their head, and they're like, "Okay, $17.99. Oh shit, wait, no sales tax. No, we don't need to get sales tax. Never mind."
Well, they do all their sales in real time. They you have to find see that ad screen for EA Play was them trying to find a cashier.
I imagine I went to buy it, and their server, some dusty server started whirring in some back office, and some guy's like, "What is that?" And someone else goes, "That's the Origin payment processing server." And the other guy goes, "Yeah, but why is it on?" And then he goes, "Oh my god, someone's trying to buy a game on Origin. Holy shit, this has never happened. Go get Steve. Okay, what is sales tax in Texas? Do we need to charge it for a digital good? We're not in Texas, but he's in Texas. Oh, fuck, just charge him. Oh, no, charge him this. Oh, no, take that charge back." That's what it feels like what happened.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened.
And then, of course, I installed him, and some of them don't work. Tiberian Sun doesn't work. One or two other ones didn't work. Other ones did.
Did Renegade still work?
Renegade still worked.
Of course it does.
So they worked, but different ones didn't work as compared to the First Decade collection, which implies that this is a totally different collection that obviously someone put some amount of effort into, because it's not just a rip of the ISO.
Right.
And it's broken in totally different ways on Windows 10.
New and original ways.
So there is if you're wanting to get like all the Command & Conquer games in a collection and just play them without having to do the PC gaming thing of like futzing around in options menus and downloading fan patches and crap, there is not an easy way to do that.
Unfortunately not, no.
There is not. The remastered collection, which we'll throw in because we're talking about collections, was developed by Petroglyph, which is formed by Old Westwood Studios programmers, which is why I bought it, because I like Petroglyph. They did Conan Unchained, which I like.
And this one is on Game Pass.
This one is on Game Pass, and it is on Steam.
Yes.
Features Command & Conquer, Red Alert, and all the expansions. Right. Also, content from the N64 ports of the game. It has making of content, upscaled FMV, hot swappable, upgraded graphics where you press the space bar, it swaps to the old graphics, and you go, "Oh my god, this is terrible," and you swap back. But it's very faithful, which is to say, they didn't upgrade the gameplay at all. It is still a 1995 RTS when you play it.
Which, granted, is the same way that Activision Blizzard did with StarCraft Remastered. It is not the same way they did Warcraft 2 Battle.net Edition 15 years earlier, though, because that one, they did add some of the features from StarCraft to it. But apparently anything that is post-StarCraft, they don't need to touch at all. They just leave it as it is. Well, these were pre-StarCraft, so I still don't know why they left it as is.
And your final collection option is possibly the best one, which is the Command & Conquer Communications Center, the website for which is, get a pen out because it's a lot of C's, cnc-comm.com.
Yeah, and that's
so that's cnc-comm.com.
And that's C, the letter N C, not like C and C.
Yeah. It's the best place to download the original game. So it appears to be a fan-run site. They have the original game, Tiberian Sun, and Red Alert, which all their freeware versions, they're maintained there along with relevant mods and patches. I promise, if you're just after the one or all of these particular Command & Conquer games, and you don't necessarily want, Renegade or Generals or whatever, then they're free, they're here, they're maintained, they're updated, mods are listed. It's a great way to download and play these games. Tiberian Sun, I could never get working. Then I finally downloaded this one and just installed it over the top of the Origin version. And Origin's like, sure, we guess. I guess that's what we installed. I don't know. And I've never seen a digital launcher not get upset, except for GOG, which doesn't give a shit because it's DRM free. I've never seen a digital launcher let you overwrite a game's files and not be like, hey, well, what are you doing here, buddy?
I've done that in Steam before.
Have you? Yeah. I've never. Steam's always bitched at me.
Not all games
will
let you do it, but some will.
Yeah. And it was like, okay, cool. I guess you fixed it for us. Thanks.
Yeah, right.
So definitely check out cnc-com with 2m's.com.
With one
They really need a better URL.
Yeah, they do. Or just search for Command and Conquer Communication Center on the internet, and I bet you'll find it.
Yes, go to AOL keyword Command and Conquer Communication Center, and it'll come right up.
Just go to Hotbot and search. For that.
Let's talk reception. I'm really just gonna fire through these. The franchise in general has been well received. It's a beloved series that EA has driven into the ground and killed. Metacritic and game rankings averages for each game are Command & Conquer 89%, Red Alert 90%, Tiberian Sun 82%, Red Alert 85%. And you notice these numbers are going down because Tiberian Sun is post StarCraft.
Right.
General is 84%, Command & Conquer 3 back up to 85%, which is probably the most StarCraft-like of the Command & Conquers. Red Alert 3 81%, Command & Conquer 4 63%, presumably because of the DRM issues at launch. And in general, the post-Westwood titles aren't as well regarded as among fans as the proper Westwood titles. That always kind of seems to be the case when companies get bought up and then sort of continue operating even whenever the original company is internally dissolved.
Right.
As far as legacy, I mean, it's dead. The franchise seems to be dead. I'm hoping the remastered collection is renewed interest and they bring in more Petroglyph guys, which are Westwood guys, to maybe do a Red Alert 2 remaster, or maybe, I'd love to see a sequel remastered collection, which is Tiberian Sun and Red Alert 2 together.
Right.
That'd be fantastic.
That'd be nice.
But again, Tiberian Dawn, Tiberian Sun, and Red Alert are all available as freeware. They're currently maintained at the Command & Conquer Communications Center. And you also, I didn't get to play around with this, but you have played around with OpenRA.
Yes. So yeah, it's a fan-built open source engine for the first two games, for CNC1 or Tiberian Dawn, as well as Red Alert, and they are working on support for Tiberian Sun as well. And it modernizes a lot of the interface and controls, and it also allows for online multiplayer on these original games, and it also supports Westwood's Dune 2000, which we didn't mention earlier, which was kind of a remake of Dune 2 that came out in 99, and they also made a sequel to that we didn't mention. But anyway...
Well, now I want to play the remake of Dune 2, because Dune 2 had cool ideas, but it was just way too old.
Yeah, Dune 2000 is kind of like if... Actually, I think it was 98, but it's like if Dune 2 was made with the Red Alert engine. That's basically what it is. But yeah, so it has support for CNC1, Red Alert, and Dune 2000. And also it has a ton of mods available that really drastically change things, as well as making things more modern and making things more easily playable. And they encourage people to make additional mods, and they give a lot of mod resources. So if you are interested in the games, that is a way that I recommend checking them out, because it works really well.
It's just openra.net.
Right.
Is their website. And it looks really cool. I'm going to download and play this because I want to get Tiberian Sun going in this.
Yeah, it's not available just yet, but they're working on that.
Oh, no, I want it. As far as final thoughts, first of all, fuck EA. At least make the goddamn games available, you absolute shitmongers. Right. What is wrong with you? Yeah. It's one of your most beloved franchises ever made. Just make them available. God, put them on GOG, for Christ's sakes. For Christ's sakes, put them on GOG. You released it as freeware. At least put them on GOG. People will pay you money for them. Why aren't you?
Right.
I like Command & Conquer. I'd say Command & Conquer 3 and 4, I like those a lot as far as modern RTSs. Yeah. Tiberian Sun has some kind of weird, quality that I'm very attracted to.
Yeah, it's just odd and foreign enough that it's got your attention.
Yeah. It's just bizarre enough that I'm like, I think I'm going to play more of this. I'm really into this. Yeah. This is interesting to me. I might end up waiting on the OpenRA version of it,
Right.
but it's so I mean, there's a lot of fun to be had in Command & Conquer. And obviously, I haven't talked much about it because Red Alert was the portion of this episode that I didn't get to play much of because I just didn't have time. And that definitely seems to be the most beloved side of things with Red Alert 2.
Yeah.
You know, it's a tremendously beloved RTS. So definitely, if you've not played any Command & Conquer games, Command & Conquer 3 and 4 are on Steam. Tiberian Sun, Red Alert, and the original Command & Conquer are all available online for free, and the remastered collection
is on Game
It
Pass.
feels a little dated, but they're still there,
right.
you know, and I'd say it's a good collection.
Yeah, and,
you know?
and it plays well, it installs easily, and you can swap back to the old graphics for a minute.
Yeah, so go play some Command & Conquer because they're good games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Except Renegade.
Yeah, don't play that.
Don't play Renegade.
Even when it came out,
Please.
people didn't want to play that.
Please, I cannot fathom them going, all right, let's release this game, and someone else going, you guys played Halo, right? Like, FPS games are different now. We can't fucking release this trash. They're like, yeah, we're going to do it anyway. Yeah. I just cannot fathom it.
And they almost made a sequel to it.
Oh my God. Yeah. Anyway, if you liked this show, then you know you're welcome. But the show's so nice, we did it twice. And if you would like to support our efforts, then you can do so at patreon.com/Retro Warriors, where you can get our uncut show a couple weeks early, so you'll get this as we record it. You can get Talking Wizards, where most recently I believe I said that scientists all agree that the world is going to end when dinosaurs burst out of the Earth's mantle.
That sounds right. I believe that's probably accurate.
So those are the kind of conversations we have over on Talking Wizards. It's a good time.
Yeah.
If you want to support us financially, but you don't want to do the subscription thing, that's cool. We understand. Everything's a subscription anymore. Underwear, soap, VPNs, television. It's ridiculous.
EA Play.
Then we'll have a link to our Redbubble, so you can just go buy a sticker or a shirt or something, and it'll kick us a few dollars, and you get a cool thing. That's in the episode notes if you just, want to help out around here, help pay some bills and keep the lights on, and but don't want to do the subscription thing. Also, rate and review us on whatever you're listening to us on. I don't know what all platforms are on anymore. I've lost track. But ratings and reviews always help because algorithms don't drive podcasts. People do. People like you, listeners like you. Anyway, we want to thank the following patrons for making this specific episode possible again. Starting with a huge Earthbound fan excited to try it for the first time.
And Tamachan87.
William Owens.
David Nethery.
Sean Schaller.
Evelyn Belchev.
Steve Duke.
Mike Morse.
Will you please stop leaving your clipped toenails on the kitchen counter?
And Matthew Davis.
Are all the patrons that made this episode possible. And Saturn, I want to thank you for recording this episode twice within 24 hours. And somehow we added a half an hour to it. God. I don't know how we did that. But it's longer.
And I feel like we were going faster than last time, too.
I think what it was is we weren't so tired that we thought we were going to die.
Yeah, and also, we actually finished it this time.
Yes. So there you go. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always,
let us
cling together.